Now, the court-martial of Bradley Manning has presented two starkly opposing portraits of the young soldier. The prosecution portrayed him as a traitor, a man of evil intent who craved notoriety, while the defence cast Manning in the role of a traditional whistleblower, a well-intentioned young soldier who wanted to spark a debate among the American public about the costs of war. Well, today a judge is hearing arguments in the sentencing phase of the case. Manning faces a lengthy jail term after being found guilty of espionage. So what impact will his conviction have on future would-be whistleblowers, journalism and free speech? Well, joining me from Washington is Hans von Spakovsky, a senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation, a conservative research think tank. And in the studio with me is Jennifer Robinson, a human rights lawyer and legal advisor to WikiLeaks. Jennifer, let me come to you first of all. What do you think the implications are going to be of this?
There's going to be widespread ramifications. This is an incredibly serious precedent that's being set. Effectively, what this decision says is that whistleblowing and leaking to the press in the public interest amounts to espionage, which is tantamount to spying and treason. The potential sentence that Bradley Manning faces places a huge chilling effect on journalism, and free speech groups around the world have voiced their concern in the past 24 hours, saying that this is of grave concern for all journalists and for their sources.
Are you surprised? I mean, a state says, you know what, we don't want people leaking our secrets. What else are they going to say?
I think we need to take a broader look at this and think about the public interest of what Bradley Manning has disclosed. He has a duty to disclose war crimes, and we've seen, in particular with the collateral murder video, and more broadly in terms of the human rights abuse that was revealed by the documents that he disclosed.
Those are a couple of things out of 700,000 documents.
In terms of the damage to national security, this has been widely overstated. He had access to top secret material. He chose not to disclose that. And in fact, the potential damage to national security that has been alleged by the government was specifically precluded from the court to date. It will be considered in sentencing, and it will be interesting to see how the court deals with that.
OK, Hans, in Washington, what do you make of that argument?
Well, I just think it's not true at all. Look, he was neither a hero nor a whistleblower. We have specific federal statutes in the United States that protect whistleblowers. If he believed that there was illegal activity going on, he could have complained to, for example, the Inspector General at the Pentagon. He could have complained to the Office of Special Counsel, which is a special independent agency that investigates wrongdoing. He could have complained to the House and Senate Intelligence Committees. He could have done all of that without revealing classified information, including, by the way, almost 500,000 after-action battlefield reports, which endangered American, and by the way, British troops by revealing the tactics and strategies of our combat missions, and by the way, making it easier for the Taliban and others to kill American troops.
Jennifer, I mean, I'm anxious that we don't kind of revisit just purely the rights and wrongs of Bradley Manning, but that's a pretty powerful point that Hans has set out there.
Well, in fact, the damage to national security by the war logs is, in his terms, gravely overstated. There was evidence presented before the Bradley Manning proceedings stating that
the US state to decide what is national security, not for WikiLeaks, not for lawyers representing WikiLeaks. Surely the US state knows best whether this endangers the lives of people who are working there in the field.
There have been incredibly conflicting statements from the US government over the course of the last 3 years in respect of WikiLeaks about the potential damage to national security. You have the Secretary of Defence saying that it was no more than a mere embarrassment. Then you have these overstated statements about risk to lives. NATO did an assessment of the Afghan stuff and said there was nothing that required anyone to be placed under protection. The war logs in particular that my colleague just referred to, actually in the proceedings came out, it said that they are sensitive for a matter of 48 hours, and after that they have limited security implications. That is an important fact to remember.
Hans, just going on to the future effect of what this means for free speech, whistleblowing, freedom of the press and the like, I would guess in the White House that if people are thinking, blimey, I don't want this to happen to me, I don't want to go to prison for a long time, and I don't want to see what's happened to Edward Snowden happening to me, they'll be delighted.
Well, look, Bradley Manning and others who handle classified information take an oath and they sign agreements not to reveal that information. Look, there was no indictment here of press sources. There was an indictment of the individual who revealed that information, and that's the way it should be. Again, if he disagreed with our war policy, fine. Assert conscientious objector status. Get out of the military and go argue that in the public forum, but do it without revealing classified information which you agreed to keep secret. He could have done all of that. He didn't do it.
Answer that.
That is absolutely false. He is a press source. He is a press source to WikiLeaks, and the prosecution argued in particular in this case that they would not have treated this case any different had the recipient of the information been the New York Times, who was actually the ultimate recipient of the information, or WikiLeaks. Bradley Manning is a press source, and as press freedom groups have said around the world...
Does that take precedence over the confidentiality agreement he signed when he took on that work?
He has an obligation to reveal war crimes. There are particular laws
against... But what about the points that were made there, that there were other avenues that were open to him? He pressed the nuclear button and said, I'm going to detonate this across the airwaves and across the newsprints of the world.
What he saw and what he said in his statement to the court is that his concern was about the inaction in response to these blatant abuses. He tried to raise it with his superiors and then he took it to the press. We've seen in previous cases, including NSA's whistleblower Thomas Drake, that the use of those procedures that have just been listed for us have been wholly inadequate and did not result in any change, and in fact he ended up being prosecuted as well.
OK, Jennifer Robinson, we have to leave it there, and Hans von Spakovsky in Washington. Both of you, thank you very much indeed for being with us and taking the time to talk to us. I suspect we could have carried on this debate for a lot longer, but time is against us.